I had a
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Is everyone logged in?
your volume.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start with roll call with Grace, who is taking the place of Suzanne for the evening.
For this evening,
For just
to be
this
clear.
evening, yes.
Okay, and the next one, but none, no more after that. Okay, Mayor LeVar,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Case,
Here.
Councilmember Connors,
Here.
Councilmember Harvey,
Here.
Councilmember Nakai,
Here.
Councilmember Neal,
Here.
Councilmember Zuluaga.
Here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this evening, we're starting off with item 3A, and that is appointments to the Planning Commission to fill vacated positions. And our city manager, Michael Lawson, is going to fill us in.
All right, council, we had 3 applications for planning commission and those were all provided to the council. And so as per our normal procedure, if you want to interview the candidates, I believe Mr. George Jones is available via Zoom this evening. I see Mr. DeZellum and I don't know if Mr. Pierce, do we have Mr. Pierce here this evening? Okay. Sarah, do you know if we have Mel Pierce via Zoom? All right. So, and we had notified Mr. Pierce that his application would be coming back this evening, and I'm not sure if we had heard back from him, but had assumed he might appear tonight. So, but Don and George are here. I'm assuming. Do we have George? Okay. So if y'all would like to interview him, you can do so.
Okay, and do you want to let us know the terms and how many open seats there are?
Sure. So Planning Commission currently has 4 vacancies, and Karen can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. 4 vacancies. We have 2 of them that will be up for reappointment January 1st of 2024. 1 that will be up for reappointment January 1st, 2025, and the 1 up for reappointment January 1st, 2026. So I believe council can choose to place any of the candidates in any of those spots for whatever duration they choose, or obviously none of the candidates as well.
Okay, and then since Mr. Pierce is not present, if he either does show while we're doing this, then we can get him in. If he is not present, then we can bring it back
Correct.
so that
Yes.
he can be present.
And as you may recall, council, Mr. Pierce's application failed on a tie vote at the time. That would require it automatically coming back. And so we would still need to abide by that.
Very good. Well, since Mr. DeZellum's in the audience, if you'd like to come up to the podium and just introduce yourselves to us, we're all very familiar, but for members in the audience who may not know you, you could give them a little bit of your background and history and why you're interested in this position.
Hi, I'm Don DeZellum. I've been a member of the community here for many, many years. I would like to serve on this commission because I have an interest in the city and how it's going to grow. This is where I'm planning on staying the rest of my life. So I have a vested interest in what's going on here. Any special questions you want to ask me?
Sure, council, do you have any questions?
Well, welcome back, Don.
Hi, long time no see.
Yeah. I was looking at your 3 most pressing issues facing the city.
Yes,
And so can you talk on number 3, minimize potential negative impacts during planning process by proper application of city planning, zoning ordinances and codes, highlight positive attributes to preserve or enhance neighborhood character.
basically what I'm saying there is a project needs to fit the area where it's going. Needs to be reviewed for anything that could be a negative and work to minimize those to lessen the impact on that neighborhood or that area. And at the same time, the benefits need to be brought forward and promoted so that people understand that there is a benefit to this project going where it's going.
Thank you.
Sure. Don, yeah, we've known each other for a long time, but I have a question because you talked about projects fitting in the space that they've been, have applied for. What's your understanding of our water tap allocation process?
Well, I know that there's a certain number of water taps allocated every year for the city, that they're held in banks or buckets, you might say. In that basically the allocation here can be adjusted by borrowing from one bucket to the other. I know that the city's capped out at 13,600 roughly for growth due to water. So that is definitely a major concern. So we just need to be able to make sure that projects that are going in are what we need so that we are not using water resources improperly.
What kind of project would you consider something that we need?
Right now, I think some of the things that we need in this town are more multifamily type housing units, apartments, townhomes, duplexes, that kind of thing. That way we can hopefully have some more buildings that are housing available that maybe people can afford a little bit easier and meet our needs. Those are kind of in short supply right now. You can go look for an apartment here in town and they're hard to get.
If a project were to come forward that the use of water exceeded what we have in one of those banks or baskets, what would you consider appropriate for that applicant to do?
If it's going to overdraw, I would encourage them to look at their project and see if they can scale it back or find a way to conserve the use of the water in that project.
Thanks, Dawn.
Council, anyone else? No? Okay. Well, can I get a motion then?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Don DeZellem to the position with the term expiring January 1st, 2024.
Second.
We're doing electronic.
Yeah, sorry. Who was the second?
Harvey.
Okay, you may vote.
My first one.
Okay, motion passes 5-2 with Case and Nakai voting no.
Okay, very good. And then we have Mr. Jones on Zillow. We see you. There you are. So if you just do the same for us, just let us know a little bit about you and why you're interested in the planning commission, and then we'll see if council has any questions for you.
Yeah, so George Jones, been a resident in Woodland Park for 6 years. I'm a commercial building owner, as well as a co-owner of 2 businesses that are down on Main Street. And I'm interested because I believe Main Street businesses, small businesses need to have a voice on the planning council. That's my primary motivation.
All right, very good.
Mhm.
Council, any questions for Mr. Jones? Yes.
George, this is Carol Harvey. One of my questions was, have you attended any of the planning commission meetings up to this point?
Admittedly, not in person. I have attended one virtually. I will say, and I know that that's not necessarily a qualification. It's one of those, subjective ones, but I will say that I've attended many, many city council meetings So I understand the process. I understand the advisory position that the planning commission has.
Did you participate in the latest update to the city's comprehensive plan?
No, I did not. I did charter review.
Yeah, I knew you did the charter. Have you had an opportunity to look at the comprehensive
Oh, yeah.
plan? If you have, what are your observations?
Well, I mean, that's pretty big. It has been a while. So I ran for city council in 2017. That's when I had, and as you know, Kelly kind of teased, or sorry, Councilmember Case teased me about, I had a lot of experience looking, or a lot of time spent on the comprehensive plan. I can't remember what I wouldn't be able to tell you right away what my points, what kind of main points stood out about that. I do think that this is a city position for growth. I think we have enough water for a little more growth, a good amount of growth, actually. And I really do. I'm excited about what's happening with the downtown development. Again, as a Main Street business owner, co-owner, sorry. I think it's important to develop those pieces to attract more economic activity in that downtown area. So I think that there's capacity to do that. And I think it does have to be planned. It does have to be controlled. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, I would ask one follow-up question then. What do you think the connection between the downtown development authority and the planning commission is?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to make a too bit broad of a leap there, but I do think that from planning's perspective, whatever, initiative or whatever ability to speak into that they have, I think that we need to do that.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you, George.
George, we're having a little bit of a difficult time hearing you. Can you adjust the volume at all on your side?
Oh, are you really? Sorry.
Yeah.
I think you're just a little far from the microphone.
Okay. I'll try to speak up louder. Is that better?
That's a little better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I
thank
do
you for
apologize.
applying.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, thank you for applying. Your opinion on the three most pressing issues facing the city. Would you talk a bit about the possibility of revising or clarifying zoning restrictions for STRs in commercial zones?
Yeah, it's been brought to my attention that so this is interesting because when we purchased one of our buildings downtown, we actually looked at on a second level, actually putting an STR on that top level, and we're right in the CBD. And at the time, there was no pushback to do that. And more recently, I've been informed that there's particular zones that people wanted to push STRs into that actually cannot support an STR. So in my mind, I'm looking to make sure that we clarify that for the community as well as commercial business owners or folks that are in these zones that are contemplating doing STRs.
So we are on your next question there, you have Tava House Phase 1 and ultimately the subsequent phases. Are you connecting that to STRs or are you connecting, or is that just a general comment on the development of?
Yeah, I mean, it's a broad comment, right? So there's a possibility from the STR perspective that it can lean into that. There's a possibility that there's, other, as I mentioned to Councilmember Harvey, there's possibility there's other ways to lean in that the planning commission can lean in or affect or, a support the way that the DDA phases or the way that development happens for phase 2 and 3.
Thank you.
Council, any further questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
I'd like to move to appoint George Jones to the vacancy of ending in January of 24.
I'll second.
Point of order, didn't we just do the 2024?
There's two.
There's two. My mistake.
Okay, council, you may vote.
Is anyone else not getting it?
I got it.
Hold on. I'm not getting it.
Do you want to, are you comfortable doing it verbally?
I'll vote yes, thank you.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Very
And
good.
Michael is going to do the oath of office for Dawn, right? And then we'll, I guess,
You want to just, yeah, I'll just schedule some time, I guess, next week.
Yeah, our next meetings are June 1st and then June 15th.
Oh, okay,
Be
okay.
in town there, George.
Perfect.
All right, we
Okay,
will
thank you,
strike that
council.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for applying.
Gotta hear it from me, man. Sorry. Now you're part of the first.
there it is.
All right. I, Don DeZellem, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado, the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park, and faithfully perform the duties of the office of member of the Woodland Park Planning Commission, upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations, sir.
Way to hang in there, Don.
Oh, I haven't had. Oh, okay.
Very nice. Very simple.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
is it possible that Mr. Jones can be sworn in before the next planning commission meeting because he needs to be introduced to the mind numbing review of the code revision?
Yes, that's a good point. There's no reason that it needs to wait for another council meeting.
Okay.
So if he, yeah. Yeah, so he and Michael can just connect and set up a date.
Yeah, George, if you would set up a time with Suzanne for next week, if at all possible, that would probably be the best course of action.
Is he still online? All right, we are off to number 4, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would, with our new procedures that started this evening with our 6:30 start time, we also had a change in our procedures that ordinance on initial posting would appear on the consent calendar.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm making a motion that we move items 8A, B, and C to the consent calendar this evening for consideration.
Is there a second for that?
With the absence of our clerk, it was an oversight based on our procedures by the staff. So just to correct that and be in conformity with our procedures is the reason that I made that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Our apologies for that, Council.
Okay.
Okay. I'm glad we all showed up at 6:30.
Me too.
Somewhere.
Okay, you may vote, council. All right, motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, council.
All right, so then we have. Yep. So we have,
Mayor, if I could make a comment before the consent agenda is voted on.
sure.
There are 3 of these ground leases that we just moved to the consent agenda, 1 for the charging stations and 2 for Verizon towers. If any of you have any questions about any of those leases before they're discussed on second reading, please get in touch with us. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have about those.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Mayor.
All right, so 5, consent calendar. We have A, and then we have 8A, B, and C moved up. So we can either take it as a whole or not. But typically, we take it as a whole.
You want to do the last 3 first? Because I know we have questions about the expenditures.
Oh, do we?
Yeah. So I hear him discussing it. So what I will do is I'll make a motion to move forward consideration of ordinance 1451, ordinance number 1452, and ordinance 1453 to move forward for initial posting.
No, well, they'll move forward for public hearing.
That's, sorry.
It's
Move
okay.
forward for public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, you, council, you may vote. Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, very good. So 5A, there's a question.
I'll make a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
One of those nights.
It's an unusual evening.
Okay, I'm
Well,
sorry, I missed.
I
The-
just assumed which department. Yeah. So Aaron, just to satisfy Frank, the Silverado pickup truck, which department is it for? The 61 grand.
Do you have a transaction? Do you have a number from?
Oh, sure.
I know we just got a new
It's Phil Long. Does
utility
that help?
bed. Oh, Phil Long's Ford. So no, not like
It's a
that.
Ford. No, it's a Silverado. That's a
It's
funny
Phil Long-
Ford.
There's a Phil Long Chevrolet. That's what you
Even
said.
every Ford person will tell you it's not a Ford. It's 116449.
We believe that's for facilities and grounds for public works.
I thought. Yeah.
I do believe that one has a utility bed on it for what it's worth. 61 grand. But yes, it is a Silverado.
A Ford, right?
Ford Silverado.
That's probably why it's 60,000.
Our next order will be a
Ford Silverado.
Chevy F-150, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion from Case and a second from Neil, and you may vote.
Grace, I'm not getting it again, so I'll vote yes. And I'll try again to get this working properly.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
All right. We are off to items number 6. It's public comments on items not on the agenda. And Grace, do you have a list for that?
I do.
Okay.
We have 5 who signed up online and I think Sarah, oh, and none in person. So first up, we have Arnie Spartans.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. My name is Arnie Spartans. I live in the Sunny Glen neighborhood. I and many others fully support the City Council resurrecting what the public saw as the good in the repealed ordinance 1431, which was proposed Title 5, Chapter 5.22 on short-term rental licensing and good neighbor guidelines. The upcoming initiative petition focuses on the bad of ordinance 1431, which was the Title 18 zoning change that set the precedence to allow unlimited STRs in single-family residential districts. There are 2 elements needed to manage where and how STRs to be regulated in Woodland Park. There are Title 18 changes to the zoning table of uses and Title 5 changes to the business regulations. Ordinance 1431 attempted to do both at once and was repealed by citizen action because of the community outrage over the Title 18 zoning changes. Since the council has yet to acknowledge or act on the concerns with the Title 18 zoning changes, there is an initiative petition that will commence soon to address the zoning table of uses specifically. But we strongly believe the City Council still needs to bring forward the Title 5 changes to define regulation, enforcement, and good neighbor guidelines. There was a Title 5 ordinance proposed by City Council as ordinance 1447. Without going into detail, there were a number of serious issues. This was represented as a 2 strikes and you're out ordinance aimed at getting rid of bad apples. However, if you look at section 5.2240, revocation and suspension, you can see that ordinance 1447 did not even include the 2 strike rule from the repealed ordinance 1431. And so a quick little visual, if you look at that section in 1431, you can see the paragraph with the 2 strike rule. If you look at ordinance 1447 from the initial posting, 2 strike rule wasn't even in there. The City Council, which claims to listen to citizen input, was notified in writing of the flaws in advance, yet they still went forward at the April 20 City Council meeting for the initial posting of the ordinance without acknowledgement or correction of the flaws, still calling it the 2 strikes and you're out ordinance, even though the language was missing. Public comments on initial posting were not allowed as they were with ordinance 1431. Subsequently, ordinance 1447 was withdrawn without clear reasoning as to why and whether it would be reintroduced to the public. This came across as reinforcement that the City Council not only does not listen to citizen input, they also do not thoroughly read the ordinances they propose. We urge the City Council to move forward with the corrected ordinance 1447. To demonstrate goodwill that the Title 5 changes will not be used to circumvent our zoning laws, our only request is that a paragraph be added stating something like, to be issued a short-term rental business license, short-term rental units must be a permitted use in the applicable zoning district per section 180990 table of uses. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Seth Bryant.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I approach you as a representative from the Woodland Park School District Accountability Committee. At our most recent meeting last night, we discussed the seriousness and safety related around student crossings. There was a recent incident where a student was almost struck by a vehicle. And if it weren't for the selfless actions of a crossing guard, we could be talking about a tragedy today rather than a near miss. So I believe that the problem is apparent, and we're asking for your consideration and attention to bring safety measures along Kelly's Road to help students cross safely at Columbine and the middle school. The DAC members discussed this at length, and we'd like to propose some possible solutions to the council. We are asking the council to investigate the possibility of adding rumble strips, speed bumps or raised crosswalks, a consistently reduced speed limit to 20 miles per hour for the entirety of Kelly's Road, more frequent speed operations by the police department, who already does a fantastic job of controlling speed on that road, but it is still an issue. Potentially a traffic study, and if warranted, a stoplight. We believe that this issue is, quite serious, and that everybody here is concerned about the safety of our students and wants them to get to and from school safely. So I ask that you consider this at your first available opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Shauna Smith.
Hello, thank you for being here and serving. And I just wanted to talk about my concern about the short-term rental petition that came up. And let me put my glasses, sorry about that. I just want to appreciate your work. I'm just concerned that the council is not concerned about the direction in which the short-term issue is going. You all have worked so hard on that 1431, right? I've been there with you. And the citizens petition came up and it stopped our progress. Where's the balance that we have spoke of together during our previous meetings? And where's the work and the support of creating that balance? Speaking of the citizens petition against 1431, I'm concerned the loudest and the least busy can change property rights. I have read their petition. I'm concerned how it could negatively affect not only short-term rentals, but all city members and their homes and what they're proposing. Are you worried that this petition would violate city members' rights and affect all visitors? Your leadership and support can create a balance. If nothing happens from the council, there's a loss of property rights, millions of dollars lost to the city, economic digression, citizen upset, lack of confidence in the governance. And I remember council looking into research about our lodging needs as a city. And I remember you stated that there were funds already there. Where's the research that shows STR owners that occupy are owner occupied versus non-owner occupied? Where's the long-term rental feasibility study? What will be the economic impact of stopping all short-term rentals? What is the impact of short-term rentals currently? I believe with your support and healthy regulations, we can be a city responsible, having a responsible neighborhood, loving short-term. Let me read that again. I believe with your support and healthy regulations, we can be a city responsible with neighborhood loving short-term rental owners. I am a property assistant, and I just ran into my neighbor as of yesterday. I introduced myself. I said who I was. And I said, if anything happens, please, I'm going to give you my number. You call me. Anything. I want you to be aware that I am very concerned about this and I want a happy neighborhood. And this is what he texted me back. I'll just say, he says, hi, Shauna. It was a pleasure meeting you. Nice to see another pleasant, friendly face around. Thanks for connecting. And that was Glenn. So I want to know that there are responsible property assistants that really care and they want a beautiful, loving neighborhood. And that's me. And if we make the regulations, we can make just everyone happy. And what I'm like really shooting for is that balance in which you guys talked about before. And I please propose a different ordinance. I am in the support of good neighborhood relations, property rights, economic growth, short-term regulations, and happy citizens. And I know you all do too, because you're there, you're sitting up there, right? And I want to support you too and know that I would do that. And now let's just get going. And I'm here to support you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Adam Kane.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us talk at this time. I have property here at 407 South Woodland Avenue, investor in the town. And first and foremost, just I know you guys have a very difficult job. The divisiveness here with the STR rules and I wanted to talk about that. But that brings me to, we do have divisiveness in the community, obviously with the STR plans and the future. So with that being said, I'm just asking that the commission and all of you folks, please just get a plan together that we can come with something that we can all win. There has to be a good middle ground, compromised ordinance that we can all come up with and be happy with for the city to grow. Financially, it just seems the economic impact of removing STRs would be very impactful to the community. Though that many less tax dollars, that much property differences, just seems like it'd be a big loss for the community. So just asking tonight that can the council come up with a solution, get us all around the table, whatever it takes to get an ordinance that we can all win for the city. Obviously, there's opposition. There's some of us that are for it. I just feel like we all have something to gain and we can find a middle ground and a good compromise for the STR ordinance that we can all win. So I'm just asking, can we get around the table? Can we come up with something for the city to win, the opposition to win, all of us that are in favor of STRs to win? So I just ask that of the board, the council, to come up with something that can be beneficial for all parties. So thank you all very much for what you're doing and your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Susie Bradley.
Get down to my level. Good evening, Madam Mayor LaBarre, Mayor Pro Tem Case, and council members. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm Susie Bradley, 17-year resident of Teller County. I live North Woodland Park here by the golf course. I'd love to address the Citizens Initiative petition as well. We're all aware that there's another petition going around to begin a citizens initiative to ban all STRs in residential areas, also affecting owner-occupied rentals. If their efforts succeed, my understanding is that ordinance will be placed on the ballot for constituents to vote on. I understand City Manager Lawson and his team was gathering data and doing a great job on this economic study to increase information and details on our industry. I'd love to check on the status of this. We do appreciate the data collection and thank you so much for that. It's vital to know the details of our industry in order to make major decisions. I would love to encourage and ask the council to introduce as well, like the fellow speaker said, a new ordinance for STR regulation, reinstating the Planning Commission that has worked so hard to create a compromising and balanced version to work together to protect all property rights and owners. I'd love to check the status on that. Please keep us posted. This would help so there are options for a fair, logical, and well-rounded representation of the style of living and visitors in this town. We are not just a bedroom community. This will ensure that the economic health and wellness of our town is achieved. This will give a working document that crosses bridges of varying opinions and disagreements that residents have to meet together to solidify a common ground as great neighbors. Most of us in this town have so much common ground on this subject, and there are a few and very loud group that would like to completely ban. That would not support our tourism and that would not support our options of living. This total ban is a no exceptions plan that will affect us all. As the details unfold of this petition going around, we will learn that the diversity of our community will be compromised and destroyed with over control and manipulation, reducing our freedoms. Thank you, and we can't wait to hear a council introduced and well-balanced ordinance working with Planning Commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's all we have. And I don't see any hands on Zoom.
Okay. And already on the next page. We're at 9A. Oh, did I skip 7? Got ahead of myself. Oh, unfinished, 7A. That's actually, yeah. So the
Mayor.
applicant Yeah.
I'm happy
Karen.
to provide an update for you. if
Sure.
you would like. At the last council meeting, we had the developers, Mr. Duncan and Mr. House present, and they provided a bunch of information during that meeting, and then you all decided to table that item till tonight. Earlier this evening, a little after 6, at a staff level, we reached out to the developer just to lovingly remind them of the time change. And with that, we since received an email from Mr. House, and he had commented actually that he had not seen this item on the agenda tonight and had not received anything from us confirming that, even though they were present for, when you guys tabled it to tonight. And then that they are asking that this item be continued until the June 1st meeting. That allows them a little more time to prepare and evaluate some information. Staff's concern with the June 1st date is our city engineer is not available during meetings in June. So to have all of staff present, we would actually suggest July 6th for a date for this item.
And if I may, Karen, I believe Ben will be here on June 1st, just not for, I think, the June 15th meeting. So
I can be, I'm working it in with vacation, but yes, I can be there, absolutely.
we can try, the plan would be, I think, for June 1st, if Ben is available.
It's a dynamic item, so that's the latest update. Thank you.
All right, council, so we need to table it until either June 1st or July 16th. If our city engineer can be available June 1st.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to table item 7A to the June 1st meeting.
Second.
Okay, council, you may vote.
Again, I will vote verbally, yes. I don't know why I'm losing my connection, but I'm working on it.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Make sure you let the applicant know, probably tonight. In writing. All right, we're off to number 9, public hearings. We have 9A, approval of location for Shoddy Inc. And Sarah is presenting.
Good evening, council. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so tonight before you, we have a request for a change of location. Judges is moving over to, or hoping to move over to the 100 Morning Sun Drive, formerly known as Stuffed. So just a few things. Applicant, we are all familiar with him, Fernando Morales. He has really good food. He has a current LLC and sales tax license and FEIN number. We did do a petitions of needs and desires since it's his business moving to a new location. And the location is eligible to be licensed as it has been licensed many times in the past. Possession of the property is documented by a rent to own agreement. And just a few other things, the application was submitted on April 3rd. The property for a public notice was posted on April 24th as required by law. Public notice was published on the city's website April 24th as well. And the character of the applicant is not an issue for this hearing and all applicable fees have been paid. So we do have Fernando here in the audience and I'd like to go ahead and invite him up to kind of talk about what he plans on doing. And if you'll have any questions, feel free to ask.
All right.
Sarah, just before you leave, one question for you. So this is for the alcohol license, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. To move the license over. So basically they get to keep their license number, all their alcohol accounts. They don't have to close anything down. It just allows them to operate at this new location.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
If you just want to let council and the audience know that you're moving and what you do and who you are. So for those that don't know.
Well, we're moving because I think we've been growing this last 4 years, and over there at Morning Sun, the building is bigger and the parking lot is too much better. And we have everything set up to move there, and we're very excited. And we know that the Woodland Park, it's been supporting us very well, and we just basically want to expand and make it better over there.
Very good. Council, any questions?
I just have one. When are you going to open?
I was gonna ask that question.
Well, we are planning to be there June 1st. It's almost, the building is almost ready. We're just waiting for a few things. No big deal, but yeah, June 1st.
And I do, go ahead, Robert.
I was just gonna ask you, is your menu gonna change at all?
No.
Okay.
No. The menu, I think it's been great. We're going to add 2 things only. And since we will have a full bar, we will add more drinks and a sports bar. So.
And I want to clarify one thing because I'm not sure if the motion is actually written correctly. Are you going to be operating at both places simultaneous at any time?
No, we are going to move George's to there, and somebody's gonna take over my place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it is written correctly. Okay.
Okay, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
We do not.
Okay, very good. Then council, can I get a motion?
Can I just clarify this question?
Sure.
So we're gonna make this motion now. That's gonna transfer your license. Now, is it effective today or is it effective the 1st
It's
of June?
effective when he moves.
Was that
It's effective when he moves.
effective when he moves? Okay, so he's got the
State.
freedom.
It's a state thing, so you still gotta wait for state approval, even though we approve it.
Mhm.
So,
Did you catch that? It's a state approval as well.
Yeah, I know that the city has to send a letter with all my paperwork, and then we have to wait for the answer of the state.
Okay, so you understood.
Yeah.
Very good. So go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you asked your question because it was in line with what I was thinking with my question. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the change of location for Shoddy Inc. DBA judges currently located at 108 East Midland Avenue to 100 Morningstar Drive, Woodland Park, Colorado.
I'll second.
You're second it because it's moving closer to you.
I can stumble home.
Okay, council, you may vote. Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. We look forward to visiting.
All the very
you over
best,
there.
Fernando.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Looking forward to it.
dude. All right, we're off to 9B, and that is ordinance number 1446. And we have our planning director presenting for us.
Good evening, everyone. The city of Woodland Park, we contract with Pikes Peak Regional Building Department for building permitting and inspection services. And to stay current with various changes in building materials and practices. The International Code Councils, the folks that write building codes for the entire country, they update their codes every 3 years. But our partners at Pikes Peak Regional Building Department actually do an update cycle of every 6 years. And it is actually time for that cycle that we have been on the 2015 series of codes, and we're now looking to shift to the 2021 series of codes. With this shift, in addition to those 2021 ICC family of codes, Pikes Peak Regional Building Department also adopts its own regional amendments to that code. And those are known as the 2023 Pikes Peak Regional Building Code. And since this is a regional building department, they serve a variety of communities here within our region, a lot of them are in Teller County, so it includes, I believe, the county, Colorado Springs, a number of the other smaller jurisdictions, including Manitou Springs, Green Mountain Falls, and then, of course, us up here. And our set of specific changes or things to the city of Woodland Park, we have a specific appendix in that code, and that is known as Appendix J. And so what you have in front of you is a proposal to adopt by reference the International Building Code for commercial construction, the International Residential Code for residential construction, the International Mechanical Code, the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, the International Existing Building Code, the International Fuel Gas Code, the International Energy Conservation Code. And then there are a couple other adopted codes that are not changing with this proposal. And those are set by the state of Colorado. And those include the 2018 International Plumbing Code, the 2020 National Electric Code, and the 2019 American Society of Mechanical Engineers, the section that's specific to elevators. And one of the big changes that we were looking at with this update really related to a House Bill 1362 last year. And that established a number of, setting up the requirement for much more stringent energy related improvements to buildings, insulation requirements, the requirement to pre-wire for electric vehicles. There's a whole slew of things involved in that package. And part of our objective with these particular code changes was to provide a more smooth transition to when all of those would go into full force and effect. I understand there's a slight update on that Roger Lovell, the chief building official, will be providing for you all. But that really was the impetus for what's going on. And we also still just need to update these codes so that we stay more current. It also helps with there's an entity out there called Insurance Services Organizations that basically rates building departments, and you end up with a better rating if you're on more current codes. And that then indirectly influences insurance rates in communities. So there's a variety of advantages of doing this. As part of the process for vetting the new codes, Pikes Peak Regional Building Department went through extensive outreach this past year. They did a number of review periods for when the community could provide comments back to them. Those have all been vetted and reviewed. And so what you have in front of you is the end product of all of their efforts. And then over the past 6 months, our own board of review here for the city of Woodland Park, they had a number of work sessions where we reviewed some of these changes, addressed issues and concerns. And then it was at their March 16th meeting this year where that board unanimously approved recommending that city council approve this ordinance that's presented to you here this evening. And then on a side note, to support our building community, we are in partnership again with the folks at PPRBD. They are going to be doing a training for us related to those code changes and transitioning. And we have a link set up on the city website, which will take folks to PPRBD's website, where they can then register for that training, which will be on June 15th. From 8:30 to 10:30 here in this room. And there is a small $25 fee associated with that. So with all of this, the recommendation is to adopt ordinance number 1446, series 2023, an ordinance amending chapter 15.02 of the municipal code of the city of Woodland Park by adopting by reference the Pikes Peak Regional Building Code 2023 edition, which adopted by reference certain secondary codes as amended, including the 2021 International Building Code, the 2021 International Residential Code, the 2021 International Mechanical Code, the 2021 International Fuel Gas Code, the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, the 2021 International Existing Building Code, the 2021 International Pool and Spa Codes, and certain state adopted codes related to electrical, plumbing, and conveyances. Questions?
Council questions?
And I would actually recommend asking Mr. Lovell to come and fill you in on some other
Sure.
information. Thank you.
Good evening, Roger Lovell, building official for Pikes Peak Regional Building. Karen, that was a great summary. I don't have a whole lot to add to that, but I do have some good news. One of the topics that Karen brought up, as well as what was discussed at our last meetings, have been House Bill 1362 from 2022 that did pass, and that was kind of the driving factor for, adoption of the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code. And in order to maintain certain amendments to that code, we have to do so prior to July 1st of this year. So that's what's really driving the schedule. But what I wanted to report on tonight was the legislative session for 2023. There was House Bill 22-1233. That's a bill related to EV charging for multifamily construction, not just new, but existing. The Colorado Energy Office introduced an amendment to that bill that removed the electrical code and plumbing code as triggers for adoption of the state energy code, the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code unamended, as well as the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code. And what the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code will do is it will require EV ready in new construction to include single family homes, as well as solar ready provisions and some other electric ready provisions when you install gas appliances. To be clear, that's not part of the code that we're here for tonight, but what they missed in that amendment to House Bill 1233 was the conveyance codes that Karen spoke to already. We were successful in working with the bill sponsor to introduce another amendment to include conveyances in that bill as well, which was passed. I don't know if it's signed yet by the governor, but we anticipate that it will be. What this all boils down to is with that amendment and the work that we did, we're able to maintain local control of our energy code for the near future, at least. And it's a big win. It will remove those codes as state required triggers to move to the next code.
It's very good news. Council, do you have any questions?
I would like to thank you all for the hard work you guys did on this. I had the pleasure of sitting through some of the meetings and it was enjoyable. So thank you.
Well, I would also like to thank you for your hard work. However, I do not approve of the conclusions, and it's not your fault. I absolutely oppose having this stuff rammed down our throat and taking away local control so much. I did not vote for the Green New Deal. I know a lot of Americans did not vote for the Green New Deal, but surprise, surprise, it's heading down the pipe. And we're being told that we need to apply it. And so my vote will reflect not your work, because I think you guys have done great work, including you, Mac, and Mr. Cahill, the rest of you. But I oppose it on principle. I think we got to learn to say no. So thanks again.
Did you have a question? No comment?
Thank you for your hard work.
Very good. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
There is not, and no hands on Zoom.
Okay,
Can I make a motion to approve ordinance number 1446, series 2023, and ordinance amending chapter 15.02 of the municipal code of the city of Woodland Park as so written?
I'll second that.
Okay, council, you may vote.
It hasn't come yet.
Are you comfortable voting verbally?
I'll voice vote yes.
Okay. Okay,
It didn't come through.
motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Zuluaga voting against.
okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are off to 9C. That's ordinance 1450, and we have CJ Gates presenting it for us.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think I'll need to recuse myself from this agenda item since I participated in the discussion during the planning commission.
Sure.
Where do I go?
You know what? You're welcome to sit in the audience if you want, or wander down the hallway and we can have someone come get you. Your choice.
I'll go to a different place. Got it. It's dark. I can turn the light off.
We have a police officer.
And we could take the chief with you if you were.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Again, this is CJ Gates. I'm representing the Planning Department for the City of Woodland Park. The project before you tonight is to approve an amendment to a conditional use permit and site plan to allow for 8 apartment buildings with 122 attached multifamily dwelling units in the multifamily residential urban zone district. The subject property is a 7-acre parcel located at the end of Tamarack Parkway, as seen on the current slide, and is known as Lot 6 Tamarack Tech Park, filing number 5. On the current slide, you will see an aerial photo of the site. For your reference, you will see what surrounds the subject property. To the north and east is Highway 67 and the reserve at Tamarack, filing 1, which is a single-family residential development. To the northwest and west, you'll see Village at Tamarack Development and the practice range of Shining Mountain Golf Course. Lastly, to the south is Lot 7, which we will get to on the next slide, and existing commercial and industrial businesses. The subject property, which is outlined in yellow on the left-hand side of the slide, has been zoned multifamily residential urban since 2014. In 2021, Mountain Star Investments LLC applied for a conditional use permit and site plan review for a multifamily residential development on lots 6 and 7. As you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, the proposal consisted of 55 townhomes and 3 apartment buildings with a total of 167 dwelling units and a gross density of 13.46 dwelling units per acre. The CUP was approved in December of 2021 and is currently valid until December of 2023. The current slide is a table outlining the previously approved 2021 conditional use permit versus what is currently being proposed. As you will see from the 2021 approved CUP, the applicant was approved for a total of 167 units on both lots 6 and 7. Those consisted of 132 units on lot 6 and 35 on lot 7. As I previously mentioned, the current proposal is just encompassing lot 6 and includes 122 dwelling units. According to chapter 18 of the City of Woodland Park Municipal Code, multifamily developments within a multifamily zone district are subject to a conditional use approval. The The applicant currently is requesting an amendment to the conditional use permit for lot 6 to revise the type of dwelling unit and associated changes to the site plan. Instead, a combination of apartment buildings and townhomes, they are now asking for 8 apartment buildings that consist of 122 dwelling units. The current application does not encompass lot 7 of Tamarack Tech Park. The current slide is the revised proposed site plan, which is also attached within the application. I would like to note that with the conditional use permits, a preliminary site plan is required. The final site plan and associated documents with submitted and reviewed administratively through a final site plan development permit process. The applicant is proposing to construct 2 different type of apartment buildings. Type A, which is outlined in red, consists of 72 dwelling units and 3 buildings and includes 2 different unit types. The 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom unit is 808 square feet in size, and the 2 bedroom, 2 bath unit is 1,078 square feet in size. Apartment building B, which is outlined in yellow, consists of 50 dwelling units in 5 different buildings and also comes in 2 different unit types. The 1 bedroom, 1 bath is 428 square feet in size, while the 2 bedroom, 2 bath is 620 square feet in size. All units within type B buildings either have a walkout patio or balcony. Each type B building has 10 units and is designed to appear as townhomes rather than apartment buildings from the exterior. On this slide, you can see the elevations, which were also attached within your staff report. The top image is the type A building elevation, which will have a total height of 30 feet. And the bottom image is the type B building, which will have a total height of 28 feet and 10 inches. As you will hear later on in the presentation, staff is requesting to work with the applicant to modify type A building facade to better harmonize with the Woodland Park aesthetic. Staff reviews municipal code section 18 when reviewing conditional use permits. The development must demonstrate a direct need to the area. The development must not endanger public health. The development must not injure the surrounding property values, and the development shall be in harmony with the areas. Items A through D on the slide comply with municipal code. The proposal must conform with the objectives of city plans, and this does comply. The proposed development must conform with city regulations, and this may comply. City staff has called out issues with the applicant's site plan, including architectural design guidelines, snow storage issues, and location of water main. The application may comply if the applicant complies with all city regulations and submits and updates site plan fixing all of the identified issues. The proposal must be built to accommodate off-site traffic generated, and this may comply as well. The applicant has submitted a traffic letter with an addendum within the application. The applicant may comply if the Colorado Department of Transportation reviews and approves the traffic letter and addendum, since the subject property is located adjacent to State Highway 67. Lastly, on the slide, the development must be built and maintained appropriately, and this complies. The development must have adequate water supply. The development must be built to not increase fire and other dangers. And the development is required to adhere to the architectural design standards. Items 9 and 10 on the slide comply, while items 11 may comply. Staff has concerns with the design of the type A building and will be requesting additional design modifications so the structure will better harmonize with the Woodland Park aesthetic. The application may comply if the applicant adheres to the city's architectural design guidelines. This application met all noticing requirements and was referred to the agencies listed here on the slide. Staff received one comment from CORE, which stated that the applicant must resubmit a grading plan, which is reflected within the conditions of approval. Staff has received no written comments on this proposal. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on April 13th of 2023. During the discussion portion of the hearing, the Planning Commission expressed concerns regarding the amount of open space and public access to the open space on the current proposal. In response to these comments, the applicant stated that he was willing to purchase lot 7 within Tamarack Tech Park Filing 5 and develop parkland that would be accessible to the public, as well as additional apartment units. However, this parcel is not a part of this application being proposed tonight. If the applicant chooses to move forward with this approach on lot 7, they would have to submit another CUP amendment application that would be heard by the Planning Commission and City Council. During the Planning Commission meeting, an updated landscape plan was also sent to staff, which was included within your packet. On the right-hand side of the slide is a snapshot of the updated plan. I would also like to mention that the December 2021 approval included a townhome plat so that the individual townhome lots could be sold individually, with the requirement that the open space be accessible to the public, which is an acceptable avenue to put future landowners on notice that a condition like this exists. Lastly, I want to reiterate that the application being proposed tonight, there is no plat or additional subdivision of land. After the discussion portion of the Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of an amendment to a conditional use permit and site plan to allow 8 apartment buildings with a total of 122 attached multifamily dwelling units in the multifamily residential urban zone, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit for and receive approval of a final site plan for a permitted use, including landscaping, drainage, architectural elevations, access, etc. Infrastructure zoning development permit, fees in lieu shall be submitted pursuant to municipal code section 18.33.170. ZDPs and building permits for all new construction, including all civil construction drawings, final drainage report, final landscape plan, final site plan, final floor plans and elevations, final grading, sediment, erosion control plans with BMPs, final utility plan, final photometric plan, and Colorado stormwater permit and stormwater management plan. 2, coordinate with staff to modify the type A building facade to better harmonize with Woodland Park Mountain Western aesthetic. 3, a final updated site plan resolving all issues identified on the red line plans must be approved by the city before any zoning development permit will be issued. 4, the applicant must submit an updated grading plan to the city and Core Electric Cooperative, incorporating that the grade is not changing plus or minus 6 inches along Colorado State Highway 67. 5, all development impact fees must be paid prior to any ZDP issuance, including but not limited to tap fees, stormwater capital improvement fees, transportation capital fees, etc. Fees shall be calculated concurrent with the ZDP review. And number 6, the applicant must conform or must submit a traffic letter with an addendum to CDOT to gain approval. Along with the 6 conditions we just reviewed, the Planning Commission also made a recommendation for the addition of a condition 7, excuse me, which reads, designated trails and open space on the subject property must be accessible to the public. After the Planning Commission meeting, staff sought out legal advice on this condition. The concern being that because there would not be a subdivision plat on which to note that the public access to trails is required, and also since the CUP ordinance does not get recorded with the county clerk's office, there is no avenue for the condition to easily go forward for future landowners of this property. Staff and legal counsel also agreed that the Woodland Park Code only requires specific dedications with subdivision applications, and this condition number 7 was not going to be included within the proposed ordinance. The final recommendation is to approve ordinance number 1450, series 2023, an ordinance approving an amendment to a conditional use permit and site plan for 18.09.090 and 5 apartment buildings on a single lot, use located on Tamarack Parkway with a legal description of lot 6, Tamarack Tech Park filing number 5, within the multifamily residential zone district. This concludes my presentation, council. I appreciate it, and the applicants are also here if you guys have any questions.
Council, do you have any questions for CJ currently?
I do. CJ, the current CUP proposal is for lot 6 for the 122 dwelling units. The 2021 approved CUP had lot 6 and lot 7. Does that mean if we approve this proposed CUP, the lot 7 portion of the 2021 approved CUP remains in effect, so that you'd have 132 being reduced down to 122 on lot 6, but lot 7 would remain at 35?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Until that conditional use permit expires, which would be December of 2023.
And they can come back in and request changes on their own anyway.
Correct. Yeah, and it would be the same process as we're going through right now.
Thank you very much.
CJ, I have a CJ, I have a question on this as well. Firstly, you've got a concern about facade. When I looked at just the, what is it, type A buildings, that roof pitch on type A looks really lean to me. Is that to try to keep it in 30 feet height? Or is that deceptive in terms of what the pitch is on type A?
The reasoning behind that, Councilmember Zuluaga, I think would be a great question for the applicant.
But it doesn't, you don't see any problem with that roof pitch?
I think that is part of staff's concerns with the type A building facade. So that's why we wanted to include that with the conditions of approval, that we work directly with the applicant to, change the building facade up a bit. So it does fit that Woodland Park aesthetic.
Well, that's not facade, that's a little more structural. And you didn't mention that, that's why I'm asking,
Great question.
Yes.
I can add to that a little bit.
Mhm.
It is possible to build a very low pitch roof at this elevation. But there are requirements under the code that need to be met with regard to different underlayment that potentially gets used, the type of roofing material that is then used. There are provisions under the code to be able to do that. And that's actually a building code issue. The aesthetic in terms of what it looks like is a little bit different issue. And Woodland Park typically doesn't like flatter roofs. And we haven't had any real in-depth conversations with the applicant around that yet, but that's part of what we're looking at improving for the community.
And I'm guessing snow load's another consideration.
It's possible to do that. It's just the size members that get used to construct the ceiling or the roof, the rafters and such.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I don't know if you can go back to 11. But maybe that's the same issue. Well, yeah, I think it's architectural design, right? What's point 11? There you go. Architectural design scheme. So that's our point.
Correct.
Okay. I have a concern for the applicant here. I heard you say that they may be interested in purchasing lot 7. And my concern for them is that I already know that if they were to apply for 7, change all of their applications, they're going to go back to the back of the queue, and it's going to mess with any timing they might be envisaging. Are they clear with that when you tell them they can purchase 7, that's going to mess with their timing of their application and their ability to meet the schedules?
Yeah, I can let them speak on that as well, but I just want to be clear that the application being brought to you tonight is just for lot 6. So lot 7 doesn't really have anything to do with their timeline on lot 6 and them developing that piece of property. Lot 7, if they choose to do so, they're not required by any means, could come later on down the road at a timeline chosen by the applicant.
Well, that goes to your conditional point 7. It sounds to me like what the city's trying to do in terms of perhaps parks and open spaces is get some sort of a settlement with them on this, and really, unless they purchase lot 7, that can't be dealt with in this application. Is that correct?
So this condition number 7, Councilmember Zulawaga, was a condition that the Planning Commission put forth during their meeting. As I previously stated, staff did meet with legal counsel and decided that this condition number 7 was not included within the ordinance. So if you all approve the ordinance as is tonight, this condition number 7 will not be.
Very good. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, let's go ahead and let the applicant come up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate all your effort and time looking at this project for the second time. I'm here with Creighton Sukup, who is a partner and a COO of our company, and Mike Bramlett, who's our civil engineer. I'll just give you a quick background, if you would. I'm born, raised Coloradoan, Colorado State University, 35 years in the East Coast. During that time, was an investor throughout the time in Colorado, owning Old Town Square in Fort Collins, different apartment buildings, owned a 150 unit apartment complex in Leadville. In 2006, I decided to start a development company. We built 500 homes in the Caribbean. We finally decided to get away from that. It was a little challenging, but it was a good investment. We started doing apartment buildings in the state of Colorado. So we have done some projects in Georgetown. We just finished 72 apartment units there. We're going to be building 50 more this summer. We're in Montrose right now. We built 96 units. We're finishing those right now. And then we've got this project here. And continue to look for opportunities in the state of Colorado. Just to quickly sort of update, we have changed the elevations, and Creighton will show you just sort of the new elevations. We'll be going through the city and dealing with that. But we have tried to make some modifications so that it fits Woodland Park. On lot number 7, I'm in contract to purchase lot 7. I know this is for number 6. But lot 7, in our view, will reduce the density just like we did in lot 6. We'll bring it down to just 20 units instead of 35 units. And we will make that just what it was, a park, greenway, trails for people to use, not just our residents, but others. We'll have parking for other people, a designated parking area, so that this is part of the community and not part of us. We're a family business. We want to be an owner operator here and stay in the town of Woodland Park and look forward to being able to do that. I'd probably like to have Creighton show you just what our updates are so that you can see that we are going to be working with the city. Planning was great. The city has been phenomenal in providing us advice and direction. And the Planning Commission, we started with lot 6. And followed their recommendation. I went into contract with lot 7, and we'll have that closed, in the next handful, just a few months. But I definitely am listening and want to be part of the community and do what everyone feels would be a good project for the community. Great, do you want to show?
In Creighton, just before you start, Sarah, would you mind, I'm sharing my screen with the applicant's presentation. Would you mind putting that on the screen, please?
That's Eric's job now.
Hi, good evening, council, mayor. Thank you very much for your time. We can go to the next slide, CJ. First, right, there we go. Yeah, here's just a kind of an overview of previous projects that Kurt was talking about. As you can see, actually, Bighorn Park Crossing and Base Camp is the same exact building of building type A. They're just different facades and roof lines, and that's, we're able to do that, and we're working really closely with the city here to make sure that you guys are happy with what we're building, and we've done that at other developments as well. As we see, the aesthetics very different. The next slide. Here's our updated latest rendition of building type A. We included a lot of, we changed siding for more of a Western aesthetic. We added like beams to the, and added more stone. We added the pop out on the side elevation, included more windows to make it not look as harsh. And then, we plan on, again, working with the city to work through this elevation when we're doing our site plan review. Here's the interiors of building type A. Again, we try to do really nice quality finishes. It has 1 or 2 bathrooms, there's 1 or 2 bedrooms, kind of an open space and a nice modern clean kitchen. Here's our building type B. Again, like what was mentioned, these are designed to look like townhomes. Thought it was less abrasive, especially along the highway, to have that feature, with the lower roof line as well. And we actually have 2 different colorways for this building. Here's just some of the interiors. These buildings are designed to have a much smaller footprint. That will allow the price to come down for future tenants. We saw in our previous projects, we were building the larger building first, and there's definitely a need in the local community for some more affordable units. So this is why we're introducing 2 different apartment types here to meet both markets. And here, you just saw this. I just wanted to kind of touch upon, we're really committed to making nice outdoor spaces. That's going to include trails, benches, picnic tables along there, areas for grilling. When we come back for lot 7, we really like to work, we've done in other projects, work with local artists to put sculptures and different things like that to really get the community involved in the space. And we would like to make a nice public space for Woodland Park. But we want to start here at lot 6, give them access to the trail here. And then we look forward to coming back hopefully very soon to discuss lot 7. I want to bring Mike up to answer any technical questions that you have about the site plan, and he can kind of speak more about how we've been working with the city with their comments in the site plan.
Thank you. Mike Bramlett. I'm with JR Engineering and resident of Woodland Park for darn near 2 decades now. I'm just here to answer technical questions. We are working with Ben, we're working with CJ. We are close to a resubmittal, and I think we're going to answer a lot of the questions. Surprisingly, the snow storage one is one of the more difficult ones to deal with. But I think we have an answer for that as well. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
I have, sure. We continually seem to have runoff issues, and maybe this is a KIP question, but are you guys going to be able to mitigate the water running off to Lucky Lady Drive in that vicinity off 67?
Well, I think the water runoff on Lucky Lady is farther north.
Okay, oh, is
right?
it? Okay, sorry.
But
Is it, but it's still an
an
issue.
And we're gonna have we have a drainage report for this site.
Okay.
That is addressing all the drainage needs, and I'll be happy to tell you, I don't think any of the JR projects in Woodland Park had any issues with the last current storm.
Okay.
So I was happy with that. The other thing we're gonna have to do is there's a CDOT access permit for the emergency access onto 67. One of those requirements is CDOT's gonna have us have to look at their drainage as well. And so we have 2 entities interested in making sure we drain the site well.
Okay. Well, obviously, given the storm drainage is at the top of the list. So I just wanted to double check that you guys
No,
had that
it's on
covered.
everyone's list.
Great, thank you.
Council, any questions for the applicants? Sure.
So my question may not be for the engineer, maybe more for the owner. The building type 2, is that the 428 and 620?
Yes.
That's the smaller size
Yes,
units?
it is.
Okay. And then my second one is more of a comment. It's great you've got the open spaces and things, but as you know, Woodland Park spends a great deal of its time indoors. Are you having any sort of common space indoors for folks in your development at all?
In our view, the great thing is we have already amenities in the neighborhood. We have the rec center. I'd hate to have a rec center without allowing them to get access to that for the owner, or if it's a city owned, we'll use, and Craig can bring it up. He'll go to all these various businesses on our website, talk about getting some arrangements so that the people that'll be renting will utilize their facilities. Same with the golf course and various things in the restaurants, whatever it may be. We'll have a very big program on our social media and on our websites trying to promote the town. And you can.
Yeah, I could talk on that. Yeah.
It's over my pay grade.
So a few things, we tend to not put like indoor amenities. It really raises the cost for renters. You know, putting in these pools and gyms and things like that. At the end of the day, it's really the monthly rent is going up to pay for that. So we found that removing that, and especially being in these natural areas like Woodland Park that has such beautiful surroundings, it makes more sense to remove them. And then again, as Kurt mentioned, we do have these perk programs that we develop at every property. We go into the local businesses, we work out, like a Tuesday deal or something for tenants and try to drive them to the local businesses and restaurants. We do that with the rec centers and try to get the community involved that way. And also trying to drive our tenants to them.
Thank you.
Council, any further questions? Okay,
Public.
right. Grace, is there anyone signed up?
I do have a hand up on Zoom,
Okay,
and it is Joe Fury.
Yes, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. Joe Fury, I live at 565 Pembroke Drive. I have a question on the lighting that each unit will have. It looks like each unit would have some kind of porch light on their balcony or patio. My question is, will those lights only shine down, or will they shine in all directions?
Absolutely. We actually design all of our building lighting to be dark sky compliant. So it will only be shining down. We do the same. We've done the same in our Georgetown project. We don't like to brighten everything up, but just enough to make it safe for tenants.
Okay, that sounds great. I'd hate to see 122 lights shining up into the sky. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace, anyone else?
Nope. Oh,
Arnie, if you'd like to ask a question, just come on up to
yeah,
the
I
podium.
think that's fine.
Hello, my name is Arnie Sparns. I just wanted to commend the developers on actually complying to our building height requirements in their design. We've seen too many other recent projects, even for simple townhouses, where they don't manage to do that. And so I think it's good reinforcement. We do have building height requirements by zone. And it's nice to see his proposal come in that way. So thank you.
Right, no one else, right?
No one else on Zoom.
Okay, council, no further questions or comments?
Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1450, series 2023 as presented this evening.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you. I haven't seconded one all night.
Hey, that's what they put there.
Okay, council, you may vote.
Grace, I will vote in favor verbally, please.
Okay, vote passes 6 with Harvey abstaining.
Very good.
Thank you very much. We look
Thank you.
forward to being part of this community.
Thanks. We look forward to it as well.
All the very best.
Grace.
We're just gonna wait for Councilwoman Harvey to come back. Oh, she's back.
Oh.
There she is. Michael went to find you.
All right, we're going to move on to item 9D, and that's ordinance 1449. And our presenter is City Attorney Jeff Wilson.
Good evening, council. Ordinance 1449, with which I believe you have some familiarity, creates a procedure for declaration of a local emergency, empowers the city manager to make that declaration until the next council meeting. I understand that there was some interest in reducing the length of time for such a declared emergency down to 3 days instead of 7 days. Of course, that amendment can be made. The definition of local emergency is included in the ordinance, and the sorts of authority that the city manager would have to exercise is also specified.
Very good. Council questions or comments?
Well, I did send to my respective council members my concerns of us delegating an elected responsibility to a paid employee. And so this ordinance has been initiated by our city manager and our attorneys, and it has not been initiated by council themselves. So I'd like to hear from my fellow council members how you feel about having your responsibility deferred to an employee when this is something that could be initiated through simple communications that are not in place now, but could be put in place.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I think just the mere definition, the fact that it's an emergency requires immediate attention. And I believe that this was not initiated by our city manager. This was initiated by our attorneys, and they have done this in many cities. And this has been a practice as long as I've been around, which is 25 years. And it's being put in place and codified so that the definition's there, the authority is defined. And there's been conversation about reducing the time for the council to come together and ratify that emergency to 72 hours. And I, as one council person speaking, would support that amendment to this ordinance. And I think that it is just facilitates addressing an emergency for our citizens and their safety. So I would suggest, or in the motion, I think we can make the amendment, correct, Jeff?
You. Yes, you may.
Okay,
And
thank
for
you.
reference, the section that you will be wanting to amend is 21630C on page 3 of the ordinance. Section 2.16.30 subsection C.
C, not 3. Okay.
C, which
Thank you.
begins, no declaration of local emergency may exceed 7 days.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Any further discussion?
Well, I'm gonna,
Councilwoman Harvey?
Robert did ask a question. We did have conversations, and when you and I spoke on the telephone, my first reaction was very similar to yours, that emergency declarations really belong to elected officials. But then I got thinking about it at great length, and then I did contact our mayor to just discuss her thoughts on it. And she pointed out a couple things that I hadn't really initially thought through. And I do want to address the one thing. I did track down, it was the city attorney that had initiated. She's been going through trying to find holes in our municipal codes as compared to other municipalities. And she was the one that initiated it. It was not our city manager. But then I did speak to the mayor. And I don't want our ordinance to be personality driven, because our previous mayor, Val, would have fully wanted to have this power, in my guess, my read of Val. When I spoke to Mayor LaBarre, she would rather not have it. So different personalities, I thought, had to be set aside. And what should a long-term policy be? Because the city manager in his contract is on call 24/7, and he does have the telephone tree completely in place for all of his departments. I was comfortable switching my perception from the, elected to the city manager. But my concern was the duration that we would be waiting. The original proposal was 7 days. And that's when I first brought up 72 hours as a reasonable emergency. We could get something that the council then weighs in to either sanctify what he's done or overrules it. And I mentioned the 72, and I think she then spoke to Mayor Pro Tem Case about it. So while I do agree with you in principle, in normal conditions, this belongs to elected members, representatives. I hope you'll understand why you're seeing a little bit of a change. I did think through it and I did look at the contract and things like that. So I'm not against this ordinance with a much reduced timeline.
Councilwoman Harvey.
I have a question, but first just a comment. We had an emergency this week, and who declared that emergency? The city manager.
And can I add on to that if you just tell us how all that worked out?
Yeah, please run through the process.
There was no formal emergency declaration. I think to Councilmember Connor's point, it did operate quite smoothly. It went about as well as I think it could have been. I'm looking at the police chief and I see many heads nodding. I believe there's a crew out there right now continuing to mitigate the issue. So, we, as mentioned, we do have a pretty robust network among all the agencies here in Teller County and Woodland Park. And I generally myself, depending on what the issue is, the chief may be the first person called. I may be the first person called. But between us, we are the point of contact for OEM at the county or the sheriff. So I think it did go well.
And my second comment before I ask the question of our city attorney is that generally speaking, we really hadn't codified how we respond to disaster declarations in the city limits. There's a section of the code that does address hazardous material incidents, and that the purview for that type of an incident is left to the chief of police. So this is really a means of codifying a system that you don't want to have any question on who's in charge and who's able to declare those emergencies. I do support a 72-hour limit. That's generally the definition of an immediate situation under the incident command system definition. So I appreciate that. But to me, this is simply codifying something that had not been codified. There's some very archaic language in our charter that talks about the mayor going around with a bullhorn or something like that. I mean, but aside from that, no one really had any, I could see that. No one really had any authority to make any declaration except for the chief of police, and that was for a very specific type of a disaster or an emergency. But my question for Jeff is that section then, if we pass this ordinance tonight, the section that previously referred to the police chief's responsibility for hazardous or toxic or incidents will go away, correct? Yeah, it's section 2.48.
It stays with the chief, but because really all this does is it gives Michael the ability to declare. It doesn't, it adds, it doesn't take away our authority, because it's only in the event he cannot get us convened. So, chief.
I don't want to get the issue convoluted, but just to make sure everybody's online. To your point, ma'am, yes, the language is archaic, but I think it's indicative of perhaps past relationships among departments in the county and entities in the county.
Yeah.
So rest assured, we're going to be on point and handling it. Doesn't matter what you want to call it, we're there, but we also have that tree in place to notify the people in those positions.
Right. And like when the tanker rolled over the other day, Michael informed me at about 8:30 in the morning, but I'm not the first person to know. And I'm not on any kind of alert to know about emergencies. So I don't even know what I was doing that day. And he called, left a message and texted. And then I think I responded maybe an hour and a half later because I'm not on call. So, because we're all volunteers. And I think keeping this position in a volunteer role is important. And so having emergencies that happen, historically, the mayor has not been the first person in the tree. I'm not the first person called. Previous mayors were not the first people called. It's always been the city manager because he has everybody else's phone number and the protocols and is trained. I'm not trained. So, and there is no training. for
I
me.
think that's key is the training.
Right.
So I have
Go ahead,
I
go
have a
ahead.
few. One, I totally agree with the 72 hours, no brainer for me. Mine are just comments too. We hire the city manager. We're elected, but we hire him. So if we don't like him, we can, and we don't like how he runs the city, we can fire him.
We're on notice.
No. And Michael and I discussed this. I mean, it's just, well, I know that. I know
Yeah, it's
that,
a
but it's just,
supermajority.
it's just it's not, yes, he's hired help, but we put him there. Same with the chief. So the two people that in my mind are going to be the ones that likely declare this ahead of us are the two people that we put in place that we trust. And
Right.
I'm not going to give up that trust until you prove me wrong. And so I really have no problem. And then my second comment is the worst case scenario is he declares one and we say, no, we don't agree with it. What are we out? I mean, I don't see where for 3 days it's going to, we're protecting ourselves from a financial standpoint and maybe others. So I just don't, I get where you're coming from. And I like Rusty initially said, yeah, okay, it's elected. But the more I think about it, the more I'm completely comfortable with it. So.
But the 72-hour rule is maximum. If
It's
he,
the
if he can
maximum,
get
right.
us together within
In 2 hours.
or
yeah.
less, he will do that.
Well-
He isn't intending to use this just to do his own thing.
Right, and he's
So-
typically not, he typically doesn't just do it on his own anyway. The commissioners called him for the last fire and asked for the
Right.
declaration.
it's
So
typically the
it's
county.
Typically somebody in the county or the sheriff or the police chief.
Typically
So
a first
it's a
responder
first responder, yeah.
that kicks
Yeah,
that
so-
off.
So those are just my random thoughts.
Well, on that point about the chain of emergency management, we have a chain of emergency management in the county, and it's pretty clear how that comes down. And so the argument that's being put forward is like it's a financial risk to us. Well, if it's fire, the financial risk sits on the sheriff until he looks at it and say, this rises to a level where I've got to call in the state. So from that standpoint, are you, my question is for the attorney, if a fire is on a city level, and it's not a building fire, it's a wildland fire, is that still under the jurisdiction of the sheriff?
I have no idea.
So that,
Okay, so Michael,
so if I may, in what happened last year, as I recall, it's been a while. In that scenario, yes, the sheriff does have jurisdiction over the event. That's true. But in this case, I believe we were asked by the sheriff and the commissioners last year to declare an emergency. If we need to make available additional assets like loaders or things to cut a fire line, which would probably be the most likely use of city resources. We've seen that a couple of times in the past few years. It still behooves us because we are the ones that are manning that equipment. We're the ones providing the equipment, doing the insurance and all of that. And so we do have skin in the game dollars in that still pertain to us, even though the sheriff is having jurisdiction.
and if he does
Also-
have jurisdiction, the financial obligation is with him. So if we provide loaders or whatever else, and there's an expense to that, we charge him for it, and that comes out of that pocket. It doesn't, so the only point I'm trying to make is this is not a financial, from my eyes, this is not a financial concern, because that's pretty well covered in the protocols of the emergency management for the county. area that would certainly give me a greater sense of council's role would be that, like, I deeply appreciate, Chief, your sending us emails and sending us photos of the tanker and all of those pieces. That was very helpful. The part that I think we could tighten up is I would like us to be on an emergency alert or a notice alert by phone, because that's fine if you're at your desk, you get your email and you get to see that. But if you're out and about, your phone's generally with you. And I'd like to see that council is in that emergency management protocol that we are on a text alert on that. And certainly with email follow-up or whatever else monitoring it. But when the mayor says that she didn't hear about it until 8:30, if it had been a phone alert or a text alert, all of council would have been apprised of that immediately. And so that's a simple way of engaging the people's elected officials in an immediate response process with any of the emergencies that occur, not only in the city, but in the county. So.
And I think that's a we can do that. That's something, I appreciate that input, and that's something we can do. It might just be a simple text message. There are applications that do that. Well, yeah, I mean, we all communicate differently. Some texts, I read them first, email.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I understand that.
Right.
And that's good feedback.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
And then if I can finish the rest of my points before you go to yours.
Sure.
The second part of that is that when this was, from what I understand, the way this was even initiated was we had an emergency last year. And when we had that emergency, the city manager was out of the state. So now we're saying we're putting the responsibility on the city manager, who's on call 24/7, got that. But he was out of the state. So when you're putting a responsibility to declare an emergency when one person is out of state and you don't have that input from council, that concerns me. So
it falls
you're
to
on one-
Suzanne because
Say again?
it's the designee. He isn't alone. It's just like Mayor Pro Tem, he has Suzanne, and then he has a chain of command as well if he's not available. It's not just him alone.
So I'm hearing my fellow colleagues here happy to say, that's fine. We don't want to weigh in until 3 days. Is that
No,
what
that's
I'm
not what
basically
it's
hearing?
saying. It's as soon as possible, up to a maximum of 72 hours. It's not saying it's a free-for-all for the city manager to just declare and do whatever he wants. It's in the event of an emergency, there are protocols, and he's the point of contact. He will immediately attempt to convene council. If he cannot, he has up to 72 hours.
And then
get-
the
to get us
declaration
together.
expires at 72 hours.
So I would
Right.
like to just say that Michael and emergency responders, I'd like for you to respond to the emergency and those immediate needs. You can contact me and let me know as soon as it's convenient. And I'm not interfering in the response to the emergency.
Right, because we don't do anything about it,
So-
Robert. What do we do?
I
If
think
you're the
that
first
that's-
person to know on a text message, what are you gonna do about it? Who are
We
you gonna
have-
convene?
We have good systems in place, and that's why I think from an emergency standpoint, we already have those systems in place. But
But
from,
we don't
hold
have
on,
it
hold-
in our code, and that is why the attorney brought it to our attention.
I understand. You asked me what we would do, what I would do. The point is, the citizens, there's 8,200 of them. The citizens of Woodland Park have elected the 7 of us to be there, to defer their liberties into our hands. And that I take as a sacred trust. Now, I'm not saying we don't have capable staff. I'm not saying that at all. We have very capable staff. But in terms of the responsibility of the freedoms, and when you declare an emergency, you're taking away the freedoms of your citizens. And from my perspective, that's something that's a sacred trust, and it's something that we need to weigh in on and not just take casually to go, okay, we're going to abdicate that responsibility. That's my point. You may not agree with it, but that's where my concern lies.
I don't think having a point of contact in the event of an emergency is subverting the people's will.
No.
I think it's a proper protocol to have in the event that we cannot be convened immediately. Someone else can take care of it in our place if we can't do it immediately, because that's the intent of the emergency, is it is immediate.
All right, so let's go back to the COVID issue. The city manager.
No.
I really
determined it
don't
was-
think the COVID issue.
But it was
Mayor,
an
I'm
emergency.
gonna
It was
look
an
up in,
emergency, and the point
Robert's
about it.
Rules of Order, I'd like to ask the council to vote on calling the question, please.
Someone has to.
Well, I
make a
haven't finished my
motion.
comments, so if you
Second.
want to try to shut me up, I suppose
me?
that's one
It
way
takes
to
a
do it.
motion and a second.
I will make a motion to call the question.
No, you got to make a motion to approve it first and then we can.
I will
call the
make a
question.
motion to approve ordinance 1449, series 2023
No, you can't, wait a minute.
as
That-
presented this
wait.
evening.
No, it's.
No,
No, you have
Jeff,
to
can you
call the-
please clarify this? We had this before and we decided we were going to fix it.
All right.
We're
Let
in the
me
debate
look
phase,
up the
correct?
Robert's Rules of Order.
We
And we'll
make a
do it
motion to
properly.
Call the question. It takes a second. If that motion is approved, the principal question is put immediately.
So it has to
And
be
I
approved
make a
first.
motion to call the question. Do I have a second, council, please?
Not for
You don't
calling
need
it.
any-
Call the question.
Not to call the question.
This is not QJ, it's legislative.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Well,
Now you vote on it.
Now we vote on that.
You can have
just to call the
discussion on this
question,
motion.
just
to call the
Okay.
Calling the question.
I just,
I never got to say. it.
it's going
Still
beyond the
you'll still
scope
have
of
a
the
chance.
ordinance. This conversation.
This is just a motion to call the question. This is not the motion on the ordinance.
Okay, council, you may vote.
I will vote yes, Grace. Mine's still not working correctly. I'm not staying logged in.
Then if it passes, I ask if there is any public comment to be heard.
Thank you.
Then there can be a motion on the topic.
So Frank, you don't get a talk.
I'm waiting on Councilmember Connors.
Wait all day. Yes.
Okay, motion passes 6-1.
All right, Grace, do you have anyone with their hands up on Zoom or anyone signed up for this?
No one on Zoom and no one signed up, but I think we had an audience.
Sure, just come to the podium, please.
My name is Deanne Betterman and I haven't read the code.
Sit down.
I'm concerned about, I just have some thoughts for you all. It seemed like our council is doing more what we would call bureaucracy instead of doing the voting and people having their freedom. We have the United Nations working with our parks, and we have international codes for our building. And I'm just concerned that this is another form of giving our voting freedom away. And I am wondering if some of us are concerned about that time when the city manager called for vaccines and for masks and things. I very much respect our city manager and I appreciate him. But that's just the one hesitation, is that we put one man in charge of all of emergencies. And it could be because I don't understand the whole thing, but I agree with the sheriff and the fire chief and the chief of police. And I don't really know if this is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can have a motion for the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 1449, series 2023 with the following change in paragraph 2.16.30C. Decrease the number of 7 days down to 72 hours.
I'll second.
Okay, council, you may vote. Okay, motion passes 6-1 with Zulaga voting against.
Okay, thank you. All right, council 10, new business, none. And we are off to reports. I just have a couple dates to announce. On May 20th from 9 to noon, Park State Bank and Trust is having a free shred day at their location at the bank. And I just want to add that it is 3 legal size boxes that you can bring. That's what they put in their rules.
That's not big enough for a whole body.
And then May 28th from noon to 3 at Reserve Art Gallery, they will be hosting Walk for Art, and people can pick up a passport and a map at the Reserve Gallery before taking the walk. And for more information, contact Gail Gross at the Reserve Art Gallery. May 29th is Memorial Day. Please take time to honor the memory of U.S. military service members who've made the ultimate sacrifice while serving for our country. And Woodland Park Farmers Market will be returning to Memorial Park starting Friday, June 2nd through September 29th. And also the Woodland Park the WAC summer hours are starting on June 2nd, as well as check out the new schedule on their website. So the Aquatic Center has new hours starting June 2nd. You can check those out on their website, and that is all I have for the evening.
Mayor
Council-
LaBarre, could you pass your notes down? We didn't catch some of it.
What's the artwork?
Councilmember Case.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to ask the council I would like, and it's interesting that in public comment tonight, there were comments that I didn't expect and really kind of speak to what I'm going to propose to the council this evening. Interestingly enough, I wish some of those folks were still here, but I would like to ask the council to support this in bringing back to the council on our next agenda the original Planning Commission ordinance for short-term rentals that we started off with, that was the result of almost a year of public comment and public input, with many meetings with the public, many different inputs. And you all Carol was on that planning commission at the time, and it really did a good job of culminating all that data and all that information into a recommendation to the council. We kind of got bogged down in it and lost the focus, I think. I'd like for us to do our job and as a council, and to bring that back, to be prepared next meeting to look at that ordinance and provide some very clear and specific direction to the Planning Commission on what's in there that we would like to see massaged or amended, and see if we can't get something passed on to the Planning Commission and move on down the road towards something that the community asked for, that some of the community members this evening, and see if we can find that balance that was spoke to earlier. Thank you for your consideration, Council. And my second thing, and I have one more thing I want to report on Parks and Rec once we have this conversation.
Councilwoman Harvey.
I would only ask the city attorney if that version of the ordinance were brought back to the council. Can we do that while there is a petition collection?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need a second? to
Do we
bring-
need a
I just
second or
need a
something?
support.
Yeah.
I need support from.
It's not a vote.
I
it's
just need a
consensus.
second council
Yeah.
member to support the request. to
Since
put
I
that on the
tabled
agenda.
it, what I
Well,
was
that's
trying to
something
do.
different. You tabled
I
something
was
different.
trying to do part of it, but I would expand it out to a more robust discussion, so I would second that request.
Any other council members support that?
I do support it,
Thank you.
but I'm worried about the mechanics of it, and I'm sure we'll get plenty of advice from planning commission, the city attorney, and the city manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I may, counsel, are you envisioning a work session, or does it matter just bring it? Did you have anything particular?
I think a work session, it would
It
probably
probably would
be
be useful.
appropriate.
Then we could have a good conversation.
No
to get
voting
that
on it. It
direction.
would be a consensus of what to send back to the planning commission, so they kind of know what each of us are thinking in terms of tweaks.
The struggle I have with this is that we, to a person, said we didn't like the limitations or put different percentages in different areas. And to a person, we all said, take this back and give us something different. So now you're gonna bring it back, and that was a big component of that particular ordinance. I'm just wondering what your thinking is, Mayor Pro Tem.
I think I was clear. Thank you. I think the council needs to do their job, and it's a good place to start the conversation.
It'd
Thank
be
you.
interesting because I think the citizens thought we didn't do a very good job at all.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Councilmember Neal.
I have no reports. Thank you.
Okay, Council. Oh, you
I need
didn't
to
do
just-
your.
I just want to, again, I like to recognize the Park and Rec's efforts, and their staff is just doing remarkable. Again, the Aquatic Center, which has always been a big focus, January through April of this year, they have experienced a 72.40% recovery. It's amazing. And let's see, what else can I share? That's good enough. I think that's the best number on here. All the numbers are very positive over prior years. And so they're just doing an absolutely fantastic job. And I like to bring that to your attention from the monthly report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Neal.
No reports. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Zulawaga.
June the 3rd, citywide cleanup. Grace, the dumpster that's arriving, is that on the 3rd? Is that what that's for the pine needles and everything else?
Oh, no, there's a dumpster coming on the 2nd for the cleanup on the 3rd for the cleanup event.
And are folks around the community able to use that dumpster one question I had was for the storm branches and stuff that came down? Is that,
Not typically in the past, but we could discuss if there's room like the next day, just so that we have enough for all the bags for the cleanup.
okay. So that would be like the 4th. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Nakai.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Connors.
I have some things, please. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
Hey, what about the fire mitigation?
Oh.
At the fire department on
Ooh,
the
Mike will
20th
kill
of
you.
May.
All right, so, all right, we have the Firewise, May 20th from 9 AM to 12 PM at the fire station.
Thank you. And a couple more things. We have Memorial Day coming up. We'll be doing, the veterans will be putting flags at all the veterans' graves at our local cemetery here in Woodland Park on the Saturday, the 27th. On the 28th, City Market, we will be selling poppies for the veterans of foreign war. And then on the 29th, we'll be having a cemetery ceremony at our Woodland Park Cemetery. And Sarah, did you get oh, you put it up. So the Rocky Mountain Vibes down in Springs has invited our city on the Friday, July 21st to have a Woodland Park night. So it'll honor our city. There'll be a link we'll get out. And the link will have discounted tickets, meal tickets, food tickets. there's a bunch of things involved and it's kind of like really too soon to get into all the real big things that'll happen, but we can throw out the first pitch, maybe we can even line up with everybody else. So it's something they offered. I thought it was a pretty good thing to do. So that is 21st of July. Starts at, as you can see, gates open at 5:35.
You'll bring it back with more details.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And I'll pass this off to the city manager so we can get Parks and Rec involved and make sure we make a big deal out of it. So,
Awesome. Thank you, Frank.
Frank,
Yeah,
where,
no.
on Memorial Day, where do the veterans gather that want to help
9 o'clock for the flags at
Where
the
at?
cemetery.
at the cemetery?
Yeah, that's off of Baldwin, our city cemetery off of
Yep.
Baldwin. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning at Lions Park, we're putting up the flags.
Councilwoman Harvey.
I did want to circle back to a discussion topic that Councilwoman Nakai and I brought up at the last council meeting, reference the sales tax collected by the city on behalf of the school district. I've had a discussion with the city manager. I don't know if you've had a chance yet, Catherine.
Just a little
Okay,
snippet. So I was going to talk to Jeff.
Yeah, where are we and what should we do to move forward on that?
I've looked at that in considerable depth since getting your question in. I hope you understand that I would prefer to respond to you privately rather than, you do have some options.
Okay,
I'll just put it that way.
okay, thank you so much.
Hey,
And-
Jeff, can you copy me on that, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
Other than that, I have nothing to report.
Okay. City Attorney.
My daughter is graduating from law school on Saturday. I only mention this because I know a number of you are very concerned about the shortage of attorneys here in our country, and I wanted to let you know help is on the way. Okay, thank you.
That's awesome, Jeff. Congratulations. City Manager.
It means I don't have to do the joke. That was the joke. All right, so I have a few things for you. First of all, we'll turn it over to Aaron, the bagman Vassalotti, for brief year-end wrap-up on finances for 2022.
So. Hello, okay. All right, it's only about 400 pages, so just bear with me. All right, I have a brief update for you on our year-end report for 2022, how we turned out for each fund. So general fund balance, we had a beginning balance at the beginning of our budget process for 23 estimated at 5,267,000. When we actually got our ACFR results back from the auditors and did the financial statements, we actually had a beginning balance of 5,390,000. So we started with a little bit more than we realized we were going to have. Our revenues for the year ended up at 103% of what we had budgeted. So we ended up at 14,279,000. Our original budget was 13,814,000. For expenditures, we spent 94% of what we had budgeted, and that was after all the supplementals and the debt payoff that we did. So we ended up spending 14,738,000 versus the 15,679,000 that were budgeted. So our ending fund balance in the general fund is 4,931,000. So pretty healthy fund balance right now. Let's see. And then our unrestricted unassigned fund balance is 3.8 million, which is 1.6 million higher than what we had originally seen in the budget. All right, for culture and rec, we had a beginning fund balance didn't change of 173,000. We had revenues of 1,189,000, which was 93% of the revenue projection in the budget. And we had expenditures of 1,153,000, which was 91% of the expenditures we had expected. So the fund balance went up just a little bit, about 40,000 there. The 410 fund, we had revenues of 2,872,000, which was 98% of our revenue projection. And this is pretty much entirely based on our sales tax. So our sales tax was, you can see, about 98% of what our original revenue projection was. And our expenditures, we spent about 70% of what we had put in the budget of 3,993,000. So our ending fund balance in there is 3,725,000. About 1.7 million more than we had projected.
Aaron, question real quick.
Sure.
Did we have a major expenditure that we did not execute? Because I look at the 5.6 million is what we had budgeted we were going to spend, but I see we only spent 3.9. Was there a major project that did not get executed?
I'll defer to Ben if he wants to.
Yes, that's a good question. It was the Highway 67 improvements that we ended up participating with the IGA with CDOT to substantially decrease that cost.
Thank you.
Go Ben.
All right, our 420 fund, not very exciting here. We had revenue 97% of what was projected, 148,000, and we had expenditures of 147,950, which is just a transfer to the general fund. Not sure what went wrong with my formula there, but that should be 100%. And our ending fund balance is 319,000 in there. Okay, our water utility fund, beginning balance did not change after the audit was done. Revenue, they had 3,028,000, which was 132% of what our budget projection was. And we had expenditures of 2,495,000, which was 55% of the expenditure projection. That was mainly due to equipment purchases that were not done in 22 that were moved over to 23, most of that. So
thank you.
Ending fund balance there, very, very healthy right now, 4,779,000. And then the 520 fund, again, audit didn't change the beginning balance. Revenue was 124% over the projection, $2.5 million there. Expenditures, 86% of what we had put in the budget, 1,666,000. So an ending fund balance there of 6,052,000. And that's all I have for you on there, unless you have any specific questions to look at. All right, thank you.
Good job. Yes.
Very good. I think Councilmember Case had one more thing she forgot.
Me too.
That's okay,
What's
we'll come
yours?
back.
That's what I was gonna do. We were both there. You go ahead. You're part of that. Okay. Just wanted to, I know you guys probably saw this in the paper, but on Tuesday, May 9th at 3 p.m., a group of folks gathered at the Cristola Bridge down towards the Cristola Roadhouse, which is a very historic bridge. We gathered to the dedication ceremony of the plaque and that recognition of it being a historical site, National Historic Landmark by the UPass Historical Society and the State Historical Society. A lot of folks there. It was really cool. And Steve Plute should be commended for all of his hard work over and over and over again on many, many different things like this. I think the next one I was asked by Donna Finnicle is the Junction House. So get ready for that, council. We need to have that conversation too. Thank you for letting me go back, Mayor.
Okay, back to city manager.
All right. Want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting last night a property tax reappraisal briefing. There were no pitchforks. There were no other incendiary devices that I know of. I think we spoke to the county assessor, Carol Kittelston, and her staff, and the commissioner spoke to about 110 people last night. And what that was explaining why the heck it is that our property tax bills are a little bit higher than they were last time. So mine went up 59%. And so we feel the pain. But it was a really helpful time. There was a lot of time taken to explain the methodology, what goes behind those tax assessments, kind of how the assessor's hands are actually very, very tied. There's a lot of state law involved and there's only so much latitude. A lot of good feedback from the public, and just appreciate the chamber for taking the time to do that, not once, but twice in the past month. So, and I know that council member Zulaga and Connors and Mayor Pro Tem Case were there. We appreciate you being there as well. So there was a call to all governments in Teller County from the county itself to consider ways to kind of balance out that property tax going up real suddenly. Is there a way to smooth that out? And the county made it very clear that they are committed to doing something, probably in the vein of a temporary property tax millage override that's enabled by new state legislation. So I don't know if.
I think what the county commissioners would like to do is, I think they plan to host a powwow, if you will, with local governments and districts to have a conversation about that as a collaborative effort, and have that conversation together and not in isolation. I think we can be more effective and be more consistent in helping our citizens over the hump of this crazy real estate market the last 3 years. I was going to say something else. It's House Bill. The commissioners, particularly Eric Stone, and Senator Baisley were very instrumental in not only writing Senate Bill 108.
Senate Bill 23-108.
And advocating for the passage of that to allow local jurisdictions to do a temporary override without the implications of Tabor. And so huge success there and a great tool for us to try and help. So stay tuned. Know that this is not the tax bill that you paid this year. It's the assessment that's paid next year. So we have that. It's part of our budget process. And so we will be having those conversations, council. I hope that you agree with that. Thank you.
Carol gave me some extra flyers, so if anyone here was not at the meeting and you'd like to see the chart of your mill rates and where the allocations are per your area, or contact the assessor's office, there's her business cards there as well at the back. Yeah, and the other thing that wasn't brought up that is also coming down the pipe, and that's is it SB 303?
303.
SB 303, and that is a much more complicated solution from the governor with regards giving you a break, but taking it back from Tabor refunds. But and that's still in the. Yeah,
It's
go ahead.
very complicated.
Oh, God.
We're working to untie what it all means, especially in concert with 108.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's many things challenging. Yes.
Talked about changing.
There's
All right,
both.
get into the weeds. Thank you to the chamber. Thank you, Deb, for putting that on and putting out 1,000 chairs for that. That was a lot. Just an update. There was a couple things mentioned tonight that I wanted to follow up on. The one member of the public talked about the short-term rental questionnaire, and we have that went out, I don't know, a month ago, and we've received back. Again, it's kind of complicated how it works, but we've accounted for about 100 properties of the 160 or so licenses. And we are getting, I think we're getting to the point of diminishing returns and trying to get the rest. Is that a fair assessment?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're working on kind of crunching and synthesizing the data to try and use that. That's a pretty good sample size to bring that to you and give you some broad conclusions from that. And you can dive into the raw data if you like. I know some of you enjoy that, but we will have that for you here in June is probably the plan. Not looking at anybody in particular.
The housing need assessment, we have Pedro and one other gentleman coming from out of town will be here Monday through Wednesday, I believe it is. You want to talk about that?
Yes, so thank you for bringing that up. As we've mentioned to you several times, somewhat in concert with the short-term rental conversation, but also just cut more generally, the city has initiated its first housing needs assessment. The vast majority of that cost was grant funded through the Department of Local Affairs, which we appreciate. And so we have a consultant, Points Consulting, out of Moscow, Idaho, not Russia, Idaho, and they will be here on site as they start to do their process. They'll be getting entrenched with you all. I hope that everyone has scheduled time to talk with them, and also stakeholders throughout the community to try and understand the lay of the land. They'll be spending, I believe, a few days here, as you mentioned, really trying to understand Woodland Park. They'll do the whole windshield tour. And so we're very impressed with their plan to attack this question of housing in Woodland Park. So we will have that for you. There was also a gentleman representing the DAC from the school district, and we wanted to share some things that we are currently working on in terms of school crossing safety. We already do have a flashing beacon at Columbine Elementary School. Right now, I believe it's flashing all the time. Is that correct?
Yeah, during the school hours.
Okay, so what Ben has shared with me is that when they're flashing all the time, it kind of loses its potency, if you will. So we will look at seeing if we can make that button activated. We did earlier this year, as you may recall, put in a flashing signal beacon that is button activated by the high school in terms of we want to make that safer. There was an incident there. So we're already ahead of the curve. You all had the conversation about a crossing on Highway 24 as part of the budget. That one's a little bit more complicated. That's for another day. But we are putting in these beacons. We will be putting one in at the middle school as well. So we'll cover both schools on Kelly's with that. The chief also shared with me that we have officers out on Kelly's Road twice a day during school hours to monitor that. So we do take it seriously, and we are improving that as it sounds like the schools would appreciate. So we're already making strides towards that. And then finally, last but not least, we have the sad occasion to say farewell to yet another city employee. Ms. Sarah Minton will be leaving us and headed for Georgia. Something about a fiddle contest or something. But Sarah's been with us, I think, for about 2 years now. 3 years now. Goodness, time flies. And we appreciate the work she's done for the Parks and Rec Department and for the City Manager's Office and Public Works. And she certainly will be missed, and we wish her the best. And mercifully, that is all I have.
I just wanted to give a really quick shout out and thank you to Deb Miller also, because I don't know if council realizes this, but through all the chains of command in the event of emergency, the chamber is also involved in notifying businesses and people in our community of highway shutdowns and impacts to them. So thank you.
Good job, Deb.
And with that, we're adjourned.
Text going, are you actually at city council? Because I can't see anybody. Yeah, I'm sitting in the wrong seat. Oh.